Some content within this episode consists of graphic depictions of police work. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, welcome back to Let's Talk Fortitude, where we have a very, very special guest. But before we get there, let me get started by, let's say this episode is sponsored by Pale Horse Coffee, Country First, Coffee Second. Visit palehorsecoffee.com and use promo code Forerunner at checkout to get your 15% off your order. Sometimes it's hard for us to find our motivation and drive. Sometimes we just feel like death. That's where Pale Horse Coffee can save you. Better owned and operated, Pale Horse Coffee roasts each one of their gourmet blends in-house and ships them straight to your door. And we're going to help you out. Right now, again, if you use promo code Forerunner at checkout, you will get 15% off your order. Insert personal endorsement if you want to. Only 2 to 3 sentences. It helps us out, lets them know that you're listening to our podcast. So head on over to palehorsecoffee.com and use promo code Forerunner at checkout for your 15% off your order. When you feel like death, Pale Horse Coffee. Well, we are honored to have, and he's probably got a few other accolades too, but we are very, very happy and proud to have a retired Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department police officer, Chandos Williams, with us today. And man, what an honor it is. And let me tell you something. We've been talking a little bit before the podcast actually got rolling, so we can't wait to get into this thing, man. But I sent Chandos a list of questions, and he didn't tell me he was uncomfortable with them. He said some of them we could probably get stuck on for a little while. But Chandos, welcome. I'm glad you were able to make it.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
By the way, we do have in our audience today here with us his lovely wife, Michelle.
Girlfriend.
Oh, I thought, well, you said better half.
Girlfriend. Well, she is my better half, but she's just my girlfriend.
Well, it's a podcast, so I do. Girlfriend. So, did I didn't speak something over this? Are you expecting a wedding ring or something?
No.
Okay, I don't want to get myself in trouble.
It might be too late. That's okay. We'll talk about that after.
Oh my God. I hope he doesn't have anybody in the police force. I see some tickets in my future. Oh my goodness. But what we normally start off with is to kind of give people a little history of your background, because I know there's somebody you grew up with that we're going to be talking about somewhere in the podcast that you grew up with.
Okay. One
of your siblings that I know is near and dear to your heart.
Oh, yeah.
But if you would kind of give us an idea of where you were raised, what your childhood was like, and that sort of thing.
I was born and raised in Matthews, North Carolina. Still live there to this day. So I'm kind of a staple there, in Matthews. My family has, most of my family, probably 85% of them all live there. Aunts, uncles, cousins are in the area. But I was born and raised in Matthews, went to Matthews Elementary, Carmel Junior High School, East Mecklenburg High School, graduated in 1985, went to Lees McRae College in Banner Elk for 2.5 years, decided that college algebra just didn't work for me. Everything else was good except college algebra. Couldn't really get through that, so I decided to come home, started my own business in Matthews. It was a car detailing business, and I did well. I did very well. I didn't like the fact that when it would rain or inclement weather, I would be just sitting around. I'm not that kind of guy. So I was looking for a career, and it was scary because I basically had a high school education and a couple years of college. And then the police department idea came along, and that's a whole nother story in itself. But it came along, and I applied and got accepted.
Awesome. So Were you raised in a big family? Was it just you and your brother? How many other did you have? You other siblings?
It was a family. It was mom and dad and 4 boys, so there were 4 of us.
Bless your mother.
Yeah. Blessed by mom. That's right. She's a heck of a woman. Always been a good mom. She's got a little bit of age on her now. She's done well. She's raised 4 very independent, strong-willed young men. I guess we've all been successful because none of us have been to prison or gotten locked up or hooked on drugs or anything like that. So nowadays that's something to say. So she did well. She and my dad did well with us.
Now, does she still live there, Matthew?
She does. She used to live a couple doors down from me, and she was having a couple health issues, so we decided to move her to Windsor Run. It's a retirement community, and it's fantastic, man. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but it's a really good community. And we are in the process right now of actually selling her property, her house, with my little brother in charge. So kind of sad in a way, but exciting because where we live in Matthews has really become, I guess, I don't want to say hot, but everybody wants to live in Matthews for some reason.
Where you're at, I mean, it is.
Yeah.
I talked to you and Olivia about a house that I painted over there. And even at that time, it was hot. I mean, it's a place sought after, sort of like the Freedom Park area, the old 9th Ward areas uptown. I mean, everything's moving outside again. When you were growing up, who would you say would probably be the most influential person, or the person that had the greatest influence on you, maybe influenced what you did, throughout your life, or something that happened, or someone influenced you at a young age that really had an impact on you?
I thought about that question for a long time when you sent it to me, and I've seen interviews where people are like, my dad, Roger Staubach, President so and so, and I really got to thinking about that. And of course, my mom and dad were big, huge influences in my life. But tell you the truth, with my life, the influences came from, of course, my family. I lived with them every day, but the people that shaped my life and made me basically the man I am today, my friends, my coaches. I played ball every season you could play ball. I played ball. My teachers, some of my teachers. I'm that kid that became super good friends with some of the really good teachers that would allow that. I have high school teachers and junior high school teachers that I still stay in contact with. My commandant, Dave Haggist, that was my commandant in the academy. He was a huge influence, and it was kind of like becoming friends with your drill sergeant. After boot camp, you became good friends with him. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, everybody that I came into contact with through my life as a young man or a child, I think influenced me to pretty much be who I am today.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I know that whenever my dad worked a lot, and now he's my hero.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, the person that what my dad did had a huge influence and impact on me once I realized, as I was older, what he actually done in my past. Growing up, I'd have to say probably my coaches.
Mm-hmm. I had some fantastic coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gosh, man. I still talk to some to this day, that I played Little League Baseball for, so.
One of my favorites has passed. He had developed cancer and he passed. The other one, I heard that not long after he had left our high school that he had developed cancer and passed away as well. But coaches don't I don't think coaches realize the impact that they have on kids. Some of them do, and they take it very serious. But there are those who don't, and
Well, I was actually a coach. I helped coach my girls in softball, 8 and under softball till, I don't know, they were 8 to 12 or 8 to however old you could be. And, you know, you never think about what you do that might influence a young kid, male or female, to be more successful in life. And I hope that maybe I did. You know, I every now and then I'll run into somebody and they'll go, "Hey, Coach Chandos," but it'll be a 22-year-old, 24-year-old woman now, and she'll be like, "I remember you and Coach Ole and Coach Ray, you know, and Coach Rich teaching us to do this and that," and it was just so much fun. But you know, they probably don't realize what influence they have on kids, but they do. They actually do.
Absolutely. So you were talking about the people who had an influence on you, your commandant. At what point in your life, was it childhood, your teenage years, after you got out of high school, what influenced you to join CMPD, become a police officer?
Well, I wasn't with CMPD first. I was with the Mecklenburg County Police.
Oh, really?
I was for 5 years. My first 5 years was a county police officer. And you know, I'll be honest, the detailing business I knew was good. It was cash money. It was hard work.
A lot of chemicals.
Sometimes you could work on a car all day and somebody say that's not good enough, and you know, you just whatever. But dealing with people, I was kind of I wasn't scared, you know, of what I was going to do the rest of my life. I just didn't know what I was going to do the rest of my life, and that was bothering me. And I was mowing my grandmother's grass in Matthews one afternoon, and a friend of mine, good friend Bobby Williams, his dad, Bud, who was a huge influence in my life. Bud pulled up in the yard. He just drove through the ditch and into the yard in his county police Bronco, because he saw me out there and he thought it'd be funny. So he pulls up in the yard and he goes, "Hey boy, what are you doing?" I said, just mowing the grass, wondering what I'm gonna do the rest of my life." And he said, "Won't you become a county police officer?" And it was almost like somebody flipped a switch in my head, and I thought, wow, why didn't I think about that? So he stayed in the car. I went inside. He gave me the recruiter's number. I called the recruiter, left him a message, and that was when it began.
Do you remember what year that was?
1988.
Wow.
And I got accepted. I got my acceptance letter October of 1989. They early hired me, so I just went to the station and shredded paper. I did all the grunt stuff. I wasn't a police officer, but I was hired as one. Just hadn't been through the academy yet, and did all the crappy jobs. And they let me ride along and see what I was going to be doing and stuff. And then I went to the academy October of 1989, end of the month.
Now, do the county and the city and the state, do they all go to the same academy? Or, I mean, some...
City and county did at that time. Well, yeah, city and county did. State's a totally different
entity.
Totally different entity.
I know that in West Virginia, most of them, all the small towns or the counties, everybody actually uses the West Virginia State Police Training Center, their barracks, the whole 9 yards. But it's a lot different. It's not North Carolina. I mean, West Virginia's a lot smaller, and so that makes sense. So you said you went into the county police to begin with. How long were you there before you went to CMPD or?
When they merged. I was there for exactly 5 years.
Wow.
Almost to the day, exactly 5 years with the county police. And that was probably some of the best and some of the worst times of my career. I was very young, very, very young. I had come from a family that had sheltered me from a lot of stuff, and I had a lot of growing up to do. I mean, I admit I was immature as a 22-year-old, and they're giving me a gun in some jurisdiction. So it was. I got into a little bit of trouble here and there, and but I learned from it. I didn't ever. One of my captains goes, you screw up all the time, man, but you never screw up doing the same thing twice. So you're learning, and it took me about. Gosh, this is crazy. It took me about 15 years of my career to really become a polished, good police officer, in my opinion. I mean, I was good. I did things good. I got in a little bit of trouble, but about 15 years into it, I really got the hang of it. Okay, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to do it, and, so forth and so on. So, yeah, I was with them for 5 years. It was fantastic. Still have a lot of friends from that portion of my life. And then we merged. We merged, and I kind of got, which was good kind of for me because I just kind of got lost in the mayhem of all the police officers that the city had. So, and with that, I did some pretty good things with CMPD. Recognized for lots of stuff, but good things come and go.
What what department did you when they merged? Where did you first go to? Where did you? I mean, how did all that work? How did they? How did they decide who went where? And
well, with the county police department, we had two sets of officers. The one set would patrol the north end of the county, and the other set would do the south end of the county. And about every 6 months, when you were getting the hang of everybody in your patrol district, you'd switch. So with the city, it was this when we merged, we were the urban police. I'm sorry, there was urban and suburban. We were suburban for a while, so we still policed the outer parts of the county, from the city limits on. It was almost like we merged in and we just stayed where we were. And then somebody decided, that's not cool. We're going to do these big divisions. So the police department mapped out all these divisions, and if you were, let's say that 6 months you were in Mint Hill, Matthews area, then you went to Independence. If you were up north, you went to North Division, I guess Hickory Grove, just all
Right.
these other places. So when we merged, I went to Steel Creek. They put me in Steel Creek, and I stayed in Steel Creek for 20-something years. I was in Steel Creek. I mean, I was in Steel Creek off and on the 5 years with the county, so I knew where it was, and I knew pretty much how to get around it. But when we merged and we got our permanent division, I went to Steel Creek.
How long did you have to stay in one department, or did you have to bid on going to, let's say you want to go to a different division or do something different, did you have to bid on that? How long did you have to wait, or did it matter? What was that process like?
Well, it depended on what was going on in your career. If you got in trouble and the captain didn't like you, he'd wherever you wanted to go, he'd put you. He'd send you. But if there was something that you wanted, like I never wanted to police around Matthews because I grew up there. I didn't want to police my own people. So I pretty much stayed in Steel Creek. Now, if you're talking about different units, everybody had to put in for it, write a letter, go to an interview, that blah, 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 that kind of stuff. I was fortunate enough in Steel Creek to do, about whatever I wanted to do. I never really ventured much out of Steel Creek to do anything. I was assigned some to the academy for our riot police when we were first starting up the riot squads and stuff. But in Steel Creek, I was a patrol officer. I was a community coordinator for years. I was a in-house detective, felony detective. I was a trainer for my division. I pretty much did about whatever I wanted to do. So I had a good variety of different things going on in my career.
I want to dig into that a little bit deeper, but before we do, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
So this segment is brought to you by Forerunner Productions. This episode, or this portion, is mixed and mastered by Forerunner Productions. For more great content, search Forerunner Productions on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and become a supporter by visiting forerunnerproductions.com. Forerunner Productions, telling the best stories ever told, capturing the story of our society. No society can ever survive without real, authentic storytelling. Sadly, the stories of today's society are hollowed out shells of the epics that forged it. Hollywood prefers to pander and cancel. The media only shares what they want you to know. This is why you need Forerunner Productions, dedicated to telling the truth and telling it beautifully. Forerunner Productions delivers stories in a way Hollywood has all but abandoned. With 5 different podcasts, weekly articles, and book publications, there's no place in the entertainment world that Forerunner Productions is afraid to go. Be sure to search Forerunner Productions on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or become a supporter by going to www.forerunnerproductions.com. Become a Forerunner today. And by the way, this is where I'm also going to give everybody out there my spiel about, hey, please, hit the like button, leave a comment. It doesn't have to be anything lengthy. It doesn't have to be a book or anything. Hit the subscribe button. If you don't want to, you can, if you want to be notified when we put up new stuff, then hit the bell. If not, just subscribe, turn the bell off, and then when you want to see if we have something up, you can do it on your own. But we would appreciate it if you would help us. It helps us activate the algorithms. And on your iTunes, go in there and leave us a comment and a like, and that would really help us as well. All right, we're going to get back at this. So, you've got to have some of these. Your most memorable times during your time on the force.
I don't think you have enough time of the day or tape in your tape recorders to get.
Hey, we're using SD cards. We got all kinds of time, and we're not worried about batteries. We're plugged into the wall, and so far my breaker box hasn't blew up, so we're good.
We got 15 hours of recording time. I think we're good.
I will indulge in a couple stories. I was, like I told y'all before we got this going, unfortunately I was the officer that the knack I was given the gift, I guess, from God, that I've always been at the wrong place at the right time. As a kid, standing in line somewhere to get a hamburger or something, the place gets robbed. Car wrecks I've witnessed, just crazy stuff in my life that, my dad was like, gosh, you can't beat them, why don't you just join them, So as a police officer, that followed me, and again, when I first started out, I rolled up into some stuff that I basically couldn't handle, didn't know how to handle, Took me a long time to get to where I could handle it, but I did, and didn't get shot or killed or stabbed or anything like that. But one of the ones I was talking about with Michelle on the way over here that I can tell you guys is when I was in Steel Creek, my call sign was 59B, or I was in the 59B zone, and that was from Dixie River Road and Dixie Road out in the county portion of Steel Creek, all the way up past 85 to Morris Chapel Road. So I had Wilkinson Boulevard. I loved the west side of town. To me, was the greatest place to police, because you had a little bit of everything. You had some black folks, you had some Asian folks, you had some Hispanics, you had country folks, you had city folks, you had drug addicts, robbers, prostitutes. You had everything. It was just a dirty kind of as I call it, the dirty West Side, and I loved it. I could speak their language. You know, if back in the day, if you know you resisted, you got what you got right there on the side of the road. And by the time you got to the intake, the guy or the arrestee was like, you know, I deserve that. And that's how it began. But anyway, I realized that I worked 4 on 3 off. So I worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, first shift, because nobody wanted it, and I was the young guy. So I'd get up on Sunday morning, I'd get into my police car, and I'd ride out to the west side, and I would eat breakfast at the Copel Grill. Y'all remember the Copel Grill? Anybody remember the
I
Copel
don't know
Grill?
if I've ever.
It's the Copel Grill. It was historic. I mean, it was there probably in the 50s, all the way up to the 90s sometime. It's a little Greek restaurant, good food, hole in the wall, just good people. Anyway, I'd be sitting at the Copel Grill, I'd eat my breakfast, I'd get back in my patrol car, and I'd start riding around. And I'd be out in the field at 6:30 in the morning. Every Sunday morning, I would get a call around 8:30, 9 o'clock of a white male with no clothes on doing some sort of either cheer, jumping jacks, skipping rope, or something on 85, absolutely buck naked. I mean, buck naked. So, and this went on for 2 years every Sunday. 2 years every Sunday, this fool would go out there and just do whatever he wanted to do, and then run up into the woods and disappear. And his name for me was the I-85 streaker. And it got to be where people were like, "Man, are you going to catch that guy?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to catch him one day," because that was just my luck, you know. So I started a campaign to try to stop this guy. Not that he was doing anything super bad, but you know, it was just not cool. But anyway, I would strategically park where I thought maybe he would hit. And I knew that he would have to climb a fence to get over, you know, to the highway. So I went to all the places that you could get up kind of close to the fence and park. I would hide. And, you know, some days I'd be pretty close to him. You know, if the call would come out and I'd haul buggy everything, he was already done with his stuff and gone. And I realized, you know, there's some time difference between guy calling in on the cell phone, because cell phones were kind of iffy back then, dispatch getting it, sending it to, or 911 getting it, dispatch getting it, and dispatching it to me. So it could be 15 minutes before I got the call, and he'd be gone. And, you know, it was my Sunday ritual, is to eat breakfast and get out there and try to catch this guy, and answer calls, of course. And one Sunday, I was out riding around in a neighborhood that the airport had bought. It was abandoned. I love that kind of stuff, abandoned houses. I would go and search the house and search this house and go and look in this house. And, you know, there's nothing in there but junk and trash and stuff. But I just made sure nothing else was going on. And I pulled up into a cul-de-sac right up against 85. There was a little car sitting there, which happened all the time. People out, you know, looking, "Oh, I used to live here in this neighborhood," or, "Oh, we were out looking for, you know, whatever." And nobody in the car. And I thought, well, that's weird. And all of a sudden, a dude comes out of the woods, buck naked. I thought, well, finally, I have solved this case. So I get out and I'm like, "Hey man, you need to drop down to your knees, drop down to your belly, put your hands behind your back." And he said, "I'm not doing it." I said, "Oh yes you are. One way or another you're gonna do it." So I latch hold of him, he pulls away. So there's my resist charge. And we get into a scrabble. And I don't know, you know, if you've ever had to fight a sweaty naked man that does not want to go to jail it's not fun. And we wrestled around for a little while.
Is that like trying to catch a greased pig?
It is probably worse, because pig ain't got hands and thumbs. But it was quite the adventure. Finally got him in handcuffs. Didn't have to hit him too many times. Didn't have to hurt him or anything. And he said, "Do you mind if I put my clothes on?" I said, "Absolutely not. You're my prize, and you're going to jail just like this." That was his punishment, from me. But my supervisor gets there and says, "Yeah, man, you gotta let him put his clothes on." So we stood around, let him put his clothes on, took him, and never had any problems with that again. So my Sundays got boring. But that was one of the crazy things that happened. I could tell you stories for hours and hours and hours about the craziness that. If you really want to know, you need to probably interview some of my workmates that were working around me, and they can tell you some crazy stuff. But yeah.
What would probably be the scariest time you had that you could talk about?
Scariest time.
That kind of had you on it. They kind of had you on edge. It's, pretty intense.
Catching my bank robber. I actually caught a full-fledged, like you see on TV, bank robber. That was about the time where I started getting hold of things. I started really knowing how to become a police officer / investigator. And this story is funny because I wasn't even in the district when he robbed the bank. I was in a totally different district. Dropping, I think it was I was on a disabled motorist call, and I was dropping a guy off of Billy Graham and 85. Bank robbery goes out. It's Friday afternoon, 5 o'clock, and it's raining. So it's the worst of every condition that you're ever taught in the academy. This is the worst day for something bad to go on. So I listened to the call and I listened to the description, and I thought, well, it was the bank right at 49 and Westinghouse, right behind the gas station there on Westinghouse. I think it was PNC Bank or something, I don't know. Dispatch came out that it was what appeared to be a black male, long gun, pistol, robbed the bank. No, they gave me a car description. The car description was a small metallic, 2-door or something. So I thought, I'm just gonna go back the country way, go back the backwoods, back country way, and I went down, made my way down Sam Wilson Road to basically 160, about where the plane crashed in 93, I think. And I just, I knew that traffic at 160 and Sam Wilson would be backed up for miles. It was Friday afternoon. Everybody was raining. Everybody was trying to get home, go back to Gastonia that way. So I just turned on 160, took my foot off the gas, and just let my patrol car just kind of coast. And I was just watching. I think it was what was that car? It was a little silver Saturn, maybe. A little 2-door Saturn, I think. But anyway, so I just go down this line of cars, and I see one that, single male, Hispanic, dark-skinned, same car description, and I pull it over. And guy can't even speak English. So I knew it wasn't him. He was scared out of his mind. I didn't know how to speak much Spanish. You're good. It's just, never mind, you're good. Get back in the car, and I start going down 160, or Steel Creek Road. And about where, I can't remember the street names, but about where the mall is now out there, what's that mall? The new mall, the open air mall out there. Anyway, about where 485 hits Steel Creek Road now.
Oh, that outlet mall?
The
Like
outlet mall, yeah. Yep. All that was not there. It was just a 2-lane road and a bunch of old neighborhoods. I rolled past a guy in the same car they gave the description, and he was 2-handing the steering wheel, and he was looking straight ahead, and he wouldn't even look at me. And it's about the time I got past him, he glanced at me. And I thought, that's going to be him. So I turned my car around, and he takes off, breaks out of traffic, goes into a neighborhood, and I call it in. And, back then the chase policy was very strict, and you could get in a lot of trouble, you get fired if you chased the wrong person. So I said, hey, I've got a silver car, matches description, black male, here's the tag. And I said, I attempted to stop him, and he's running, fleeing from me. And my Sergeant Dan Malone, one of the best ever sergeants to work for, said, I give you permission to chase that guy. It's a 1043 basically. And I chased him through that neighborhood. And instead of being, right on his bumper, I just let him take the line out, and I'd reel him back in and take the line out. And we went through the neighborhood, got back out on 160. And when you're in a chase like that, you go into what's called tunnel vision. And I had a little bit of tunnel vision, but I was breathing. I made sure I was breathing. I was giving the dispatch all the places we were going, the speeds, the weather, the traffic conditions like we were taught. And they were all terrible. Speeds were high. It was raining. Tons of traffic. He was bashing into people, making turns and stuff. And I didn't even realize, but when we came out of the first neighborhood, there was a K-9 officer, Ken Saltzman, who's a good friend of mine, grew up with him. He was coming back from K-9 training, and he just happened to be the next car in line. So he fell right in behind me, never said a word, never told dispatch he was behind me. And I didn't know he was there. I never looked in my rearview mirror. I was concentrating on him and what was going on in front of me. And we turned on West Boulevard off 160, and we topped speeds of about 100 miles an hour in the rain. And I thought, man, this is crazy. So I let him. I knew my car, even though it was a Crown Victoria, I knew that I could catch him. I just let him run. Just let him go. And he turned on. I should remember the street. He turned on the street where the police helicopter pad is, or where the helicopter unit, their thing is, and that goes over to another street or whatever. But anyway, I'm sorry, we turned on West Boulevard. But anyway, so he turns on that road, and he goes up the road, and he loses control, and he smashes into a fence, jumps out, and takes off running. So I'm right there on him. Kenny and I are on him, and he's trying to climb a fence to get over the fence, and we just grab him and put him on the ground and get him under control and put him in handcuffs. And it took me about, 30 seconds or so to realize, gosh, it's really windy out here. What is going on? And a friend of mine who's a helicopter pilot with CMPD, JJ Johnson, had heard what was going on, went out, got in the helicopter, and he was hovering about 30 feet off the road, right at our patrol cars. He was hovering.
Wow.
I didn't even know it, but so that's why it was so windy. Get this guy in the car, and I'm fired up. I'm excited. I got adrenaline pumping, and get to looking around in the car. Can't find the guns. Can't find anything. But he's got stuff on his hands. He's trying to keep his hands from us. Well, the stuff on his hands was the ink that they put 2 dye packs in his money. Excuse me. And I only found. I was really thinking, man, maybe this isn't the guy, and we've just chased this guy, and he's crashed his car, and he's a young guy, young black male that I've dealt with, and that's a whole nother story. But I dealt with in Steel Creek, pretty much his whole life. Didn't recognize him at first. And I found probably, I guess it was, I don't know what they stack $1 bills up in, but it was a big stack of $1 bills with a bank wrapper around it, and it had a little bit of that dye on it. And I thought, that's all? This is all? Because they said they gave him $25,000 in cash. So that's all we find in the car. We arrest him, take him back to the team office, and let the detectives talk to him. And just by chance, a guy that was getting ready to mow his grass said, "Hey, a car pulled in here and threw something out in the natural area of my house, at the driveway in the road. It was on 160." And he said, "I opened it up and it's a whole bunch of money." So we go over there and recover all the cash. His guns were out there, and they were all like BB guns, but they looked. I should have brought a picture. They looked like a real AR-15 and a real revolver. So nobody would know any different. And he basically, we got him. And it's funny how if you've ever met that thing called karma, that young man had lied and complained. He complained on me several years earlier and lied about some things, and got me in trouble, got me suspended because they took his word over mine for some reason. And now I caught him robbing a bank. So he got 7 years. He was actually 18 years old. He got 7 years in prison. And that's the end of that. That was probably the most exciting, hair-raising, scary car chase, bank robber. One of them, I'm sure. I've got more, but that was one of the biggest highlights of my career.
Something a lot of people don't know about me is I was actually a corporal shift supervisor in the West Virginia Division of Juvenile Services. And while we were waiting for the Donald R. Coon Center to be built, they actually sent us out across the state to work and to train and to learn after we got out of the academy until it was built. Before I go any further with that, we're going to take a quick break. This break I want to bring to you on behalf of Chad's book. I've read it. We've given out several copies. All of our guests get a copy of that book, and you'll get one as well. It's a great read. I'm very proud of him. It's You're Not Special, You're Gifted. And you can find this on Amazon, or there's several other bookstores that are carrying it now. We're really proud, Chad's mom and I are really proud of him. And a lot of times, when I first read it, one of the very first things, pretty much he says is that there's a lot of gifts in the graves that people never use the gift that God gave them. And so when they died, that gift just dies and goes away. It was never used. Nobody ever was ever to experience it. So that's one of the things that Chad kind of talks about in his book, about how to recognize that gift and how important it is to use it and how it can affect others. So Chad, we're really proud of you about that. And oh, this is his? Yep. Oh, okay. Cool. I had Chad to personalize that for you.
Thank you.
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that. Yeah, thank you very much.
And so yeah, we're very, very proud of Chad. So I was working at our industrial home for youth. That's where, in West Virginia, that's where once they were sentenced, I kept them at the detention center. That's where we kept these kids until they were adjudicated. And then once they were adjudicated, they went to the industrial home for youth in West Virginia, and that's where they did their sentence. And we had this kid there, and he told me this himself, and I was shocked. They actually caught this guy and his girlfriend, this kid and his girlfriend. They were teenagers. At one of the rest stops on I-77 in West Virginia. They caught them in the rest area trying to get the blood off of them. They were covered in blood. They were high off their rear end, didn't know where they were, who they were. He and his girlfriend had been partying with her mother. He got mad at her. And listen, if there's any kids, parents, or whatever, if you're listening to this, you may want to, this is pretty graphic. I'm just giving a heads up. That he took a knife and he cut her throat. And the only thing holding her head on her shoulders was her spine.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't remember doing it. They were just out of their mind on drugs. And it was sad because when the kid wasn't on drugs, wasn't doing anything, it just seemed like a normal kid that you would see off the street. I mean, that's what drugs do to these people, do to these kids. I mean, it puts them out of their mind. They're not themselves. There was another kid there. And I mean, this is just to show that you don't have criminals in Charlotte, North Carolina, or Chicago, or Miami, just in those places. They're in little rural West Virginia as well. That this kid put a dude on his knees and shot him point blank between the eyes. These are the kids that we're keeping in those, we're watching in these detention centers. And you don't hear a lot of this. You don't because they're juveniles. This isn't put out in. Now this has been years ago. These dudes are probably 30, 40 years old now. So I can't imagine. I can't imagine what you all had to deal with, because I know what happens to me when I pull my adrenaline. I get dangerous. And when I pull it, I know it's time to step back and walk away. I have learned that from making mistakes in my life with my adrenaline pull. So when you sit there and you talk about your adrenaline's going crazy, you're chasing this dude and you're getting, you can get tunnel vision, and you're trying to stay focused on what's in front of you. After you caught that guy, and you step back from it, he's in the car, you step back from it, how long did it take you, or how long would it normally take you for your adrenaline, to kind of wash its way out of your bloodstream and for you to settle down? I mean, what was your body, did you have bodily reactions to that? I know with me, I'll shake real bad. Once that adrenaline rush is gone, I'll start shaking really bad. And I have to go somewhere and sit down and pull myself together. Was that an issue with you, or did they help you all going through the academy about how to deal with your adrenaline rushes?
They put you in some situations where they might get your adrenaline up, but nobody can really, adrenaline, just like anything else, affects people differently. So my adrenaline was pumped up, and when I get adrenaline rush going, here's what I do wrong. I can't talk. I can talk, but I'm more focused, like I was more focused on that bank robber and catching him, because I would have driven that car into the lake to get that guy, because I knew he was a bank robber, and I knew this was a big to-do, and I didn't want to screw it up. So, no, I didn't. I was just, 6 hours later, when it started coming down, I was very tired. I was just very tired. I didn't. I had to learn, and I was fortunate. I had to learn to control that, which a lot of people don't ever learn how to control their adrenaline. And one of the good ways that I learned to control it was playing paintball with a bunch of guys. Oh my gosh, man! If you're the last one on your team and you're cornered and there's 6 people shooting paintballs at you, if you can talk yourself into breathing and not choking, if you can talk yourself into breathing, listen, there's been plenty of times that I was the last guy on the field on my team, and I was cornered, And I would just stand there. They'd be shooting and shooting and shooting, and I'd be swear they couldn't get to me. And I'd just calm myself down, because it's, it hurts. It's just painful. And these guys were wanting to get me, because usually I was playing with civilians and they knew I was a police officer. So they wanted to pop a police officer with a couple paintballs. But I learned how to take deep breaths and just calm myself back down. And after that, man, because they're hopped up on adrenaline, they're thinking, oh yeah, we're going to get this guy. And more times than not, I would come out the winner. I'd get them all, and they'd be like, I don't know how you did that. So my experience in life, that when I played paintball, and I played paintball every weekend for years, I learned how to just control it. So adrenaline is, it affects people differently. It makes me tired. Like I'll get a rush of adrenaline, and I don't shake. I have to really think about what I'm doing, and then later on when it goes away, I'm just tired. I'm exhausted.
I'm tired and exhausted. I don't know why it makes me shake like that, but it's just, I don't know. I don't always shake. It's certain, and here's the funny thing with me. There's times that you would think that my body would pull it, but I don't, and it allows me to stay focused. It's when I'm dealing usually with something that's stupid.
Yeah.
That, you just, anyway, I'm not going to go that route.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
So, did you deliver any babies?
I did deliver a couple babies. God, I hate to tell you this story, but I delivered a couple babies and I saved a couple lives with CPR and stuff. Back when I was with the county on third shift, me and a guy named Brian Foley, he was in we split up a district. He was in a district, I was in a district, or response area. He had this old country boy from the west side. Back when you were in the county, you were out in the country. Pull up in probably a 77 Monte Carlo. And there was a woman in the back seat that took up the whole back seat. She was a big lady. A big, big lady. She was having a baby and didn't even know she was pregnant. So
That is one big woman.
that was a big woman. She knew something was wrong, but she didn't know she was pregnant. So I stood there. I didn't actually deliver this one, but Brian did. Thank the Lord. And I stood there and watched him deliver this baby. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. Little babies, I love little babies, but that baby came right on out, and it was something that I don't like to think about it, but it was just something that was really cool. But yes, I've delivered a couple babies. I don't really want to talk about that. It's just private kind of stuff. But yeah.
What about coming up on bad accidents?
All the time. All the time. Every accident's bad in my opinion. But the real bad ones, yeah. Especially the plane crash that I had to work back in, I think it was 93, where the plane came into Charlotte, the wind shear hit it. It was getting ready to land, so of course they weren't going to land it. The wind shear hit it. The pilot put it in full steam to pull it up, and it pulled up right. It veered off the runway and went right off into the trees. It hit a tree on Steel Creek Road, and that plane was probably traveling 300 miles an hour. It hit that tree, and the tree it just probably shook a little bit. Broke the plane in half. That was probably one of the most gruesome but interesting scenes that I'd ever been on. I mean, plane crash it's just intoxicating to see what the power of speed and metal and people, what happens when a plane like that hits into the woods and just disintegrates. And then that plane crash, there was about 21 or 23 survivors. They were still sitting in their seat in the back of the plane, and the back of the plane is swung around and knocked the side of a house off. This is what's so interesting about this stuff. Knocked the side of the house off and was sitting in the living room of this house. They got out of their seat belts, walked down the aisle and into the man's living room and out the front door of the house, like they had been invited in.
I hate to laugh, but that is incredible.
Oh, listen, one of the most incredible things I saw on that, it wasn't gruesome, is, you know, there's a closet with a cart in it. So you got a door of a closet, a metal cart with a door, a tray with mini bottles on it. Okay? The only lady that was driving down the road, that was actually, her car was inside the scene. She was driving down the road, minding her own business, and all of a sudden, boom, there's this plane crash right in front of her, like the movies. Well, one of those mini bottles had somehow found its way out of the plane, out of the closet, out of the cart, and stuck in her grill of her car perfectly. Like somebody just stuck it in between the grill, just sitting there. And you're thinking, now how in the world does that happen? It's just amazing. But in that scene, and I know it's not a vehicle accident, but it's an accident. There were people in the trees still buckled into their seats. We found one of the flight attendants underneath one of the wings a couple days later when we were cleaning up. Another gruesome thing that I'll just tell you, there's a little path that we were walking in between the crime scene tapes that the officers were in the crime scene, and we kept, like I saw this piece of cardboard we were stepping on to get across, and didn't think anything about it. Well, it wasn't cardboard, it was part of a man's back. It was the skin of a man's back that looked like a piece of cardboard. It had been burned and charred and kind of hardened, and we didn't know, but we'd stepped on it for 3 days, and that was pretty weird, pretty gross. But yeah, I'll never forget that. I never had any real PTSD about that. Never dreamed about it. I probably will tonight. Probably have a nightmare, but I was out there for 3 days. It was my district. I'd just gotten home when it crashed, and my captain said, "I need you back out here," and I was up for 24 hours on that scene. It's amazing because nobody ever thinks about this. When a plane crashes, everything that you have in your pockets, everything you have in your bags, your shoes, everything comes off of you. All your personal belongings are strewn everywhere. Luggage. Think about 60 people on a plane with 120 bags of stuff. Anything from dentures to hunting rifles to clothing. Just imagine what you take on vacation with you or someplace. It's everywhere. It's just absolutely everywhere. And that was pretty tough.
Was there any casualties on the ground? I mean, from the plane?
No casualties on the ground.
It was just the people in the plane. That's what amazes me. You have something like that with all the fuel, like you said, the metal.
Oh, and the fuel smell is the diesel. It's a diesel. Jet fuel's basically a high.
Oh, it's JP5.
Yeah, it's a smell that I'll never forget. I can tell you that. People burning and jet fuel and yeah.
It's refined diesel, and I can tell. When we were deployed, whenever I was with SBU-20, because we had helos that would come on, we'd have to refuel helos and stuff on board ship. We carried JP5, which is jet fuel. And every opportunity we got, because we ran twin six, they were Detroit diesels, they were V6, twin turbos. We had two of those. It was twin prop. So anytime we could get JP5 in our tanks, oh baby, top it off right now because it was burnt cleaner, it burned hotter, and we were able to get 10, 15 knots more out of that boat than we could if we were just running regular diesel fuel.
Right.
And it burns hotter. That's what makes it so effective. So you can only imagine what that does. But it's just, when you take all that and you don't have, I mean, just think, they're in the guy's living room. The part of the plane is in that guy's living room. To me, it's just one of those things that God has a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not your time to go,
That's right.
He's going to take you out of that house and put you somewhere else.
Well, the crazy thing was when the plane hit the tree, the people in the middle of the plane pretty much got the brunt of it. The nose piece where the captains and the co-pilot or whoever sat, sitting right on the middle of the street like somebody had parked it there, just sitting there, and they unstrapped and walked right out of the cockpit. But, you know, out of a broken nose of a plane, but they were all secure. I think one flight attendant was maybe strapped in up front. But everybody else in mid-plane, probably from the cockpit or the door where you come in to about the where the back part of the wing fits onto the plane, they're the ones that didn't survive. The back part of the plane spun around, hit that house, and you know they were just like, I couldn't imagine that ride. I don't want to ever imagine that ride. But it was very interesting, very intriguing. I mean, I just wanted to look at everything, and I did. I was lucky enough to be able to walk through that crime scene, and as I was helping, and see the mayhem and the damage and the craziness of that plane crash.
Stuff that you can't unsee.
Stuff that you can't unsee, but you move on.
Yeah.
You know, it's you did what you did. It's a job, and you move on. So.
Speaking of moving on, why don't we lighten things up a little bit? Let's get away from the bad stuff and start talking about.
Well, we're getting ready to.
Okay.
We're getting ready to. So, what was it like retiring?
Oh wow, scary, a little scary. I didn't know how. You know, I went through a divorce 5 years before I retired. It was very hard on me. Very hard on my kids. My kids chose to live with me instead of her. And I gave them, I'm sure my ex-wife has a different story, but I gave them the opportunity. I said, look, you can live with me, you can live with your mom, whatever you want to do. You know, this is a hassle between us, and you guys need to just, but they both said, yeah, we want to live with you. So I raised my daughters. I'm still raising them, kind of, but for the last 10 years, I've had basically parental control over them.
Now, I've met Olivia, so who are your other ones?
Katie Grace, Catherine Grace Williams. She's my youngest daughter. She is a senior at NC State this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And she's going to graduate with an animal science degree. So she wanted to be a vet. I don't think she wants to be a vet now. I don't know what she wants to do, but you know, she'll find it. God will put her on the right path.
Exactly.
But I didn't know how much it affected my kids, especially Olivia. Olivia's a daddy's girl. And I came home one day, and there was a calendar on the refrigerator, and it was the day I was going to retire, and said, "Thank God." So.
How many years?
30.
Wow.
30 years.
Hey, the reason why I ask you that question is because I know that sometimes when there's guys retiring from our plant right now. One of them's getting ready to retire or just retired that had 49 years at that plant as a machinist. 49 years.
That's a long time.
And now all of a sudden one day you're not going to have that job anymore.
Yeah, it's tough.
So I guess that's what I know that, you know, it's like some of the guys that come back from, you know, when you get out of the military. I mean, I spent 10 years in the Navy. there's part of that camaraderie, the people you're working with, you become family, and then that's not there anymore. You're waking up in the morning and you're like, wait a minute, I don't have to go in this morning.
Yeah, I was fortunate, a little bit before, maybe a couple months before I retired. There was a motorcycle dealership getting ready to open right here in Matthews called 10 Cycles, and I had heard that a good buddy of mine that I'd grown up with was going to be the general manager. So I stopped by one day on the way home and got out, and they were in the building. It's located right there in Matthews beside the Family Dollar in that little, used to be, I think, an auto mechanics shop or something. But I'm walking through this shop, and they're remodeling it and getting it ready, and it's a KTM Husqvarna motorcycle dealership. So I was just walking through, and came out the back, and Brian Dudley was sitting in his truck. He was the GM, and all these guys were around him. And when a police officer walks up in uniform, they're thinking, this isn't good. So I'm like, hey man, what does a guy got to do to get a job around here? And Brian he leans over and looks at me in his rear mirror, and he goes, you're hired. I said, okay. I turned around and walked off, because I knew they were in a meeting. I knew they were all busy and didn't think anything else about it. I was just hauling around. Well, about 2 weeks later, I get a text message from him. It's got a picture, and it's got 10 Cycles ID card with Chandos Williams on it. So I'm like, hey, wow. So I call him and goes, hey, man, I want you part of the team, when you retire, but I want you to come in on your days off and put bikes together. So that's what I did for 2 months. On every day I had off, I would go up to the shop, sit on a little stool, take brand new bikes from Australia out of the crate and put them together. And he knew that I could do it. And I've done it before at other places. And after that, he said, hey, I want you to be one of my sales guys. I said, I don't want to be a salesman, man. I've been selling help for 30 years. I'm tired of it. He said, no, I want you to sell bikes. I think you'd be good at it. So I started selling bikes, and I was the number one sales guy for 2 years. The 2 years that I worked there, I led everybody in the sales team. Of course, there's only two of us. But I was always number one for about 24 months. And then they knew that I was going to go try to walk the Appalachian Trail, so they knew that was coming. And after retirement, man, I was fortunate because I had a great job, made tons of money selling bikes. Was pretty good at it, actually. And it's not that I know everything about motorcycles, but I can talk, and I can tell you. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you what I think if you ask me. And I sold a bunch of bikes. So that was pretty much the end of my career at CMPD, and I went right into something else, and it just happened to be something that I love. I'm passionate about motorcycles.
Well, you stretch scooters now.
Well, I still have my motorcycles, but the scooters, the older I get, the less the less I like that powerful speed. I love speed. I love to go fast. But when I got divorced, I bought a CBR 1000 RR because I'd always wanted one. And I don't know why anybody would get on one of those bikes and give it everything it's got, because I have, and it's scary. And the older I get, the less that's enjoyable to me. What's enjoyable to me is a smaller CC motorcycle that handles good, that you can have fun with and not worry about. I mean, you still get hurt on a scooter, or even killed, but the chances are less. And I just have more fun on them. I just have more fun. So.
Well, you mentioned something there just a few minutes ago. And Ken, anytime you got a question about this next subject, any of them you can, but just chime in when you want to, because sometimes I won't be looking over that way. We've got our producer, Ken Bonham, with us today. I'm glad he's here. First of all, I want you to tell everybody where they can find all your information on YouTube or wherever you have it, what your channel is, then we need to make sure, Chase, we need to make sure we get this in the description. Chad, make sure we get this in. About your preparing for the Appalachian Trail, and tell us about that experience.
You can find all that at Nobody's Adventures on YouTube. And why I said Nobody's Adventures is because when I got on the trail, I walked it for almost 2 weeks. The first attempt before COVID, the COVID scare got us all off, and I'd not received a trail name yet, which is odd. So everybody would go, "Hey man, what's your trail name?" And I'd be like, "Well, I don't really have one. I'm just nobody." So that kind of stuck. So my trail name, as of right now, unless something else happens, is Nobody. And my YouTube channel was Appalachian Trail something, and then I said, it needs to be Nobody's Adventures because it's not always going to be about the Appalachian Trail. And when I got hurt and came home, everything I tried to do over the summer, I tried to make some sort of little video out of it, so I could share that with everybody. And when I was preparing for the Appalachian Trail, I was a self-taught vlogger, which took a lot of time, a lot of spare time to just play around with the editing and stuff. And I think some of my videos are all okay, but I go back and look at them later and they're like, I could have done a better job. But to prepare for the Appalachian Trail, I watched a lot of YouTube. I followed a guy named Jeff Oliver. His trail name is Habitat. And Habitat is short for I've been to a town. He doesn't like towns. He likes to be in the woods. And I followed him through the Appalachian Trail, and I basically, I got to give him credit, and I've met the guy, but I basically, equipment, tents, packs, shoes, basically copied him. It was easy. It was easy to prepare as for the equipment because I just watched what he liked and didn't like. And pretty much, got the equipment, took it on a couple camping trips and tested it out in Waxhaw. And hopped on the Appalachian Trail all by myself one day. Had a guy drop me off that brought me from Charlotte. He works in Charlotte, lives in Georgia. He took me to Anamacola State Park where the approach trail is. And gave me a big old hug, took my picture for me and said, "I'll see you later." And there I was. And I started walking.
So you, 2 weeks, how long were you on it?
The first time I was on there for about a week and 3 days, I think. And immediately, when you get on the Appalachian Trail, I was so excited, and I've been wanting this for 2 years, and preparing and saving money. And, there's so much to do at home. The girls, we had this big meeting, had a list of things, of emergency contacts, how to do this, how to do that. It's a huge, huge undertaking to get prepared. But when I stepped off on the trail the first time, the first night in camp, there were rumblings about the COVID. COVID was just getting heavy, hot and heavy. And there were some rumors and vlogs about the little towns not wanting us to walk through them. They weren't going to let us resupply. Some were like, "We're going to lynch you. You're going to be run off." And that was bothering me. And at the time, my trail boss, who kind of kept an eye on things where I wasn't, said, "Look, just go back to your tent and leave these people alone, and you can deal with that in the morning." So I got up and kept walking and camping, and it got worse and worse. And at night, people would meet at the shelter where we were staying, and they would talk about what they had heard and what their spouse had told them, and people were dropping out left and right. And finally, I got to a place where I sent a box of food up ahead of me, so I could just come into town and resupply and keep going. And it was from where I was going to come off the trail. I was going to have to hitch a ride 9 miles into town, get my box, wash my clothes, whatever, come back out. And the shuttles and stuff were just stopping. They were like, yeah, we're not picking anybody up. So I was like, I don't know if it's worth walking 9 miles back into town to get a box of food and walk 9 miles back out to go in the woods for 5 days. I don't know. So I made the decision to come home. I'm like, it's not how I want to walk this thing. I want to be able to spend my money in these little towns and they'll be happy about it, and to be able to go in these little towns and not be shunned or booed or looked at as like, you could have something. So I came home, and it was no big deal. Came home, went back to work for about a year, and then hopped back on it about a year later. And that's when I walked almost 300 miles on the Appalachian Trail. There were a couple really special moments I had up in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park where I know God touched me. And then about Max Patch is where I pinched my nerve in my neck, and it it's so painful. It made me throw up, and I was just in such pain. The chiropractor that I went to in Asheville said, yeah, you probably need to go home and get this looked at a little bit better. So went home, went to a doctor, took x-rays and stuff, and they said, yeah, man, you've got a disc in your neck that is pretty much worn out, compressed and worn out, and it's going to be a problem for you the rest of your life as long as you carry a bag on your back. So I didn't understand, John. I didn't understand why this was happening to me, because I was having such a fantastic time. I had to leave my little trail family, to march on, and I was kind of depressed. But now the big picture is, the book of why has turned the pages on me, and I understand that the reason I think that I had that happen and had to come home is I got to spend some pretty intimate time with my brother.
If you don't care, and listen, take your time here, because I know this is very sensitive. It's a very sensitive subject, and that he was near and dear to you. That's where we're going next, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Tell us about your brother, because I got to know about him at the Sawtooth Hunt, and if you would kind of go into that about how your first presentation of the gun in his honor, and what Matt and Sarah have agreed to be participants in there at the Sawtooth Hunt, and we'll cover all that another day, but or the Sawtooth Hunt and how you got there. I've kept you long enough today. I mean, this has been awesome, because I'd love to get you back again. But let's talk about your brother. Tell us about him.
He's the firstborn, named after my dad, Frank Williams, and he was always the guy that I looked up to as a kid, as a brother. He was just that guy. He was good looking. I always dated these beautiful women, married a beautiful woman. As a number 3 brother out of 4, the number 1, you just kind of watch to see how you want to, do your life. Frank was very blunt growing up. He was hard sometimes to talk to. He's very businesslike, very dry sometimes. And we didn't have really that good of a relationship growing up. He was so much ahead of me. He went through school and went off into life, and I was still in school. So it was just kind of a hit and miss kind of relationship with Frank. But when he texted everybody and said that he had cancer, it changed. Everything changed. Everything changed. I tried to spend more time with him. It's funny, man. This is going to be emotional for me, but he got accepted at trials, cancer trials at the NIH, which is the National Institute of Health. And because his cancer was so rare and so deadly, that they said, hey, we'll treat you because we want to know more about this kind of cancer. It's called thymus cancer. So he had to have, I think, 12 or 14 tumors removed out of his body. I'm sorry, it was like 8 or 9 tumors. Surgery was like 12 or 14 hours. It was tough. And he came out of it, and he survived it, and he was on those good medications, but he was awake and could talk, and he called everybody in pretty much on his list. He called his sons and his wife in, then he called my dad and his wife in, and then he called me and Olivia in, because me and Olivia had gone up there. We'd surprised him and gone up there. And my brother Frank was never one to tell you, hey, I love you, he was hard.
Take your time, brother. It's all right. We got all day.
But he called me and Olivia in, and he told me some things that I'll cherish forever. He told me the truth. He told me he had it was not the big tough guy act. He was basically he was telling me the truth because he was high on drugs or coming down from drugs. And he told me some very special things that he thought of me. But anyway, after that, we started doing things together. Not a lot, but when I got hurt on the trail and I came home, I was a little depressed, man. I mean, I just didn't understand why. I knew God had a path for me. I just didn't know why, And now, looking back, I got to spend this fantastic time with my brother. I mean, fantastic brother time. He's into AR-15s. I said, hey, man, let's build an AR-15 together so I can have one to remember, our time together. He goes, yeah. So we milled out an AR-15. He showed me how to do that, and we spent time there. And the funny thing was, Frank never thought he was handicapped. Never thought he had any handicap, even though, the cancer had just riddled his body. And I called him one day. I'll back up. I called Matt Barringer, and I said, Matt, I need a favor from you, man. My brother's always wanted to go hunting, and he's never been hunting. And I said, he's got cancer, and we don't know how long he's going to be around. He goes, he's in, period. Done. And that's a whole nother chapter. But so I called Frank, and I'm like, hey, man, look, I've actually pulled some strings and got you in this super cool handicap hunt. He goes, well, I'm not handicapped. And I said, well, I know you're not handicapped. Or I know you think you're not handicapped, but you're handicapped, man. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. I said, there are guys there with PTSD that don't think they're handicapped either, but they are. They've, whatever. So I tell him about the hunt in great detail, and he says, well, I want to bring my gun, and I want to do this and do that. And I said, no, Frank. I said, here's what's going to happen. For once in your life, you're going to let me provide for you. You're going to let us provide in hand and foot. I call it hand and foot you. And that's what we did. We got him there. We got him in the stand the first night. He got to be guided with some of the guys that taught me how to hunt, which is amazing. And that would be Tony and Tim Goodman that live out in Richfield. But he sat in the stand with them. I gave him my rifle because we didn't have to worry about him sighting his rifle in. I knew where my rifle was. I said, you just point at it and shoot it, it'll fall to the ground. And so all we had to do is just dress warm and come on. You know how that is.
Yep.
We get him out there, we feed him, and we put him in the stand Friday night, and it rains all night. And you know, I'm like, gosh, this is terrible. It's gonna rain all weekend. You know, Frank's never been hunting. But he's in a nice blind. He's got heat. He's got snacks. So the next morning, I get up and I drive over to Sawtooth Oak Farm where Matt Berringer puts this thing on, and I told Matt, I said, I will do whatever you want me to do as long as you want me to do it, because of this, forever. And I had you know, some tasks to do he'd given me, and I was doing them, and I get this video of Frank getting off the golf cart, and you know, he could barely walk, but he walked over to this buck that's laying on the ground. I thought, holy cow. No, first of all, he sends me a picture with 2 fingers of blood down his cheek. They had already broken him in. I thought, well, okay, he's killed a doe. Cool, you know, cool. But then here comes the picture of this buck, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he killed a buck? Well, it wasn't just a buck, it was a 9-point, beautiful buck. And you know, they hunted 3 times that weekend on that same property. It was the only deer they saw. And Tim said, I've never seen this deer on any of my cameras or nothing. He just came from nowhere.
That's amazing.
Oh, so what they do out there is when a hunter kills a buck or a doe or whatever, they mount it for you for free. It's amazing. Frank came back. We fed him. He had plenty to drink. You know, I bought him a raffle ticket. Little brother, big money, buys him a $10 raffle ticket. Hey man, here's a raffle ticket. You know, like you can be like everybody else. Well, that night he wins a $600 badass bolt action 6.5 Creedmoor off that ticket.
It was his weekend, brother.
Yeah. Oh, he won some other stuff too out of some kind of other drawing. I'm like, man, we need to take you by a quick trip and get you a lottery ticket. So he kills the second biggest buck of the weekend. Never been hunting before. Wins a rifle. Wins all this other stuff. Just has a blast. So I wanted to take him turkey hunting because turkey hunting's my passion, but he couldn't make it. So Olivia and I volunteered for that, you know, and we always will as long as we're alive. But this year came up, and Frank was going downhill a little bit. He was having some issues, not with the cancer, but from the complications of surgery. So me being retired and everybody working and stuff, I had the opportunity, and when I came home from the trail, I decided I wasn't going to work. I was just going to dilly-dally around and build scooters. Yeah, I know that's coming.
Yeah,
but
let's talk about that.
so I was basically, Frank would call me and say, hey, I need you to do this. Can you come pick me up? Yes, I'll take you to get a haircut, take you here. And I you know, I was a little impatient with him because he was slow as molasses. And I wish I hadn't been that way, but it is what it is. You know, I didn't know I was going to lose him. Nobody knows that. But I said, hey, man, I've got you in this handicap hunt again. You know, you excited? He goes, oh, yeah. I got a scope on my Creedmoor. It's sighted in. I'm ready to go. So I'm like, all right. Well, 2 weeks before 2 weeks before the hunt, Frank had to have open heart surgery because of this complication. And I had to do some real soul searching. And, you know, I know a higher being said, you need to really be careful with this and him. So with that, I called Tim Goodman, who lives in Richfield, and he's got his family owns property, who hunted with Frank, who knows Frank's condition. I said, Tim, Frank's not doing all that great, and he's getting ready to go do open heart surgery. And you know, Frank's like, oh man, they do open heart surgery all the time. It's almost like an in and out now. I'm like, okay, you know, okay. But I didn't want to take any chances, and I said, hey man, can you give me a day that I can just sit in the deer stand with him somewhere on your property? I said, you know, you tell us what to shoot if anything. And he goes, absolutely. So he gives me the date of November 2nd. And we show up. You know, it's a fiasco to get Frank. You know, Frank's taking his gun this time. So He's got to take his gun. He's got to find his bullets. And he's slow, and he's excited, and we have to stop by Matt Berenger's and sight his rifle in. I'm like, oh my goodness, Frank, I love you, man. But so we go do that, and we finally get out to Tim Goodman's house, and Tim's talking to him, and Tim realizes that Frank's he's not looking very well. He's stumbling and doesn't have his feet under him real well. And we put him in the golf cart and we take him out to the deer stand. And I said, Frank, I'm going to carry the cooler, the snacks, the heater, all the things that make you comfortable. I'm going to carry all that stuff. I'm going to carry your rifle. All you got to do is get the bullets. You do that? He said, yeah, man, I can do that. So we get in the stand and we get all sitting down and set up, and I've got him a little cup of something here and some pistachios, and, set out. We're ready. I said, all right, let's load your gun. He goes, do you have the bullets? I said, no, Frank. Damn it. That was your job. So I get on the phone. I call Tim. I said, hey, man, can you pick me up? I'm going to walk out very quietly about 300 yards up. Can you pick me up? We don't have any bullets. He said, yeah. So me and Tim were just busting out. I said, man, that's the only darn thing I told him he had to carry.
I can imagine Tim, too.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
So I make a little video. You'll see it on YouTube about me walking back in. I told him we were on safari and my brother forgot the bullets and all that mess. But that was funny. So I finally get back in. I have to tiptoe back in because it's getting that time. And we get his gun loaded and everything. And Frank's just like a new hunter. He's looking through his scope at everything that moves. And I'm like, it's okay, man. It's okay. It's a deer pile. There's a corn pile about 100 yards away from us. Tim said, hey, man, you let him shoot whatever he wants to, period. I don't care. I said, 12-point buck? I don't care. It's all right. You got it. So the whole day goes by, and it's getting pretty close to being time to be done. Tim has already seen a little cowhorn buck, two-horn buck. And we didn't think anything about it. But right about time, that cowhorn buck comes through our shooting lane. And I said, hey, man, you want to take this deer? He said, yeah. I said, all right. I said, it's on you. What I'm going to do is, you get settled. We were looking this way out, and the deer was coming this way but taking his sweet time. And I said, when he gets to where I know you have a good, clean shot, I'm going to make a noise, and he's going to stop, and you're going to pop him. He goes, okay. So he gets in front of us, and I'm like, are you ready? He goes, yeah. And usually you just go like, meh. I didn't even get that out of my mouth, and that he pulled the trigger, and that deer stand from the noise puffed out and puffed back in, and I didn't have any hearing protection. I had Kleenex stuck in my ears because I'd forgotten.
And it's a 6.5.
Yeah. Oh, the whole deer stand went whoop whoop, and I thought, wow, that's loud. But and the deer falls down. And I said, dude, you shot that deer. You good shot. And he's so excited. I know his adrenaline was pumping. He was so excited. He wanted to get out and go straight to that deer. I said, no. We're going to pack our stuff up and put our little snack things up. We're going to walk down. We're going to let it, make sure it's expired. And then we'll, give it some time. So I text Tim, and I'm like, hey, man, it's we shot that buck. And we went down there and took pictures with it, and Frank got to see it being skinned, and we got all the meat and all that stuff. But the thing was, Frank was one of those guys, and I know a couple of these guys. He's a super outdoors guy. He should have been an outdoorsman. He's caught big fish before. He's gone hunting twice and shot bucks. Even though it wasn't a prize buck, he still shot a buck. So I got to spend about 4.5 hours in the deer stand with him. That's the last time I got to see him. Dropped him off. Next day he went into surgery, and I never saw him again.
You showed me pictures when we were there at the hunt this year. But the first year that he was there and he hunted with you all, and the second year, it didn't even look like the same
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, it did
Chandos
age
City.
Yeah,
It's-
now that I look back on it, I'm like, man, I am so super glad that, and you know, when he passed, I called, Matt and, Sarah, and I said, hey man, Frank's gone. And, they were upset. They were really upset. They loved Frank. And, but they got his name memorialized up on that banner at the hunt. And, what I did with my mom, this year is I wanted to, and Matt gave me the A-OK. I was wanting to present something in Frank's memory. So we went and bought a rifle. Finding a rifle in 2 weeks is almost impossible, but I found a little Henry lever action 22, and my mom and I bought it, and I took it down to a buddy of mine's place in Monroe, and he laser etched Frank's signature, which is really cool, into the buttstock of it. It's like he signed it, but it's in there. And I wanted to give it to a guide, and I'm going to try to do this every time, but I wanted to give it to a guide that does more than just guide for this hunt, that does other things all around the community. And I got to thinking, well, gosh, Tim Goodman. He guided Frank twice. He comes up there and he supplied all the fish for the fish fry. He came dressed up as Santa Claus for the kids. Perfect. So Tim had no idea. Nobody had any idea. Not even Matt Behringer. And so the time came, and Matt was going to let me stand up there and try to get through what had happened and give this thing, but it got crazy, and they started doing the auction, and people were hooting and hollering.
Crazy.
Yeah, you
Crazy
saw,
wasn't even the.
yeah,
We've got
yeah,
it on
you
film,
saw
though we
it.
can. That
Yeah.
was that was.
And,
oh
and I
my
was like,
goodness.
hey Matt, thanks for the time. He goes, oh God, I can't help it, man. I'm like, I know, dude. I'm just kidding. So Frank's son was there, Adam, who was with Frank on his 9-point buck kill. Just happy, couldn't wipe the smile off his face. Adam was there. Andrew, my oldest brother now, was there. Olivia and Dalton. Yeah, I think that's who was representing. But anyway, I said, you know what? We don't have to have everybody's attention for this. Let's just take it up to the house and let's just get Tim up there and just talk to him. So that's what we did. And I went and found Tim, and I think he was trying to bid on some stuff in that auction. I said, hey, you busy? He said, no, I'm not busy. I said, come on, I need to talk to you for a minute. So I walked him up there, and when he got up there, he realized that we were all standing around. We were all Williamses. It's the Williams crew. And he saw the rifle box sitting out there, and I said, Tim, we all decided that we were going to give a rifle away. It's going to be the Frank Williams II guide gun giveaway. And I said, this year it's you. And we talked a little bit, and he just couldn't talk. He just didn't know what to say. And it's just a 22, but
It's
something.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's just
beautiful
something to
rifle.
remember Frank for, and that's what we're going to do as long as I can afford it, and as long as I'm alive. I'm going to try to do that. Next year it might be given out in front of everybody. I don't know, but it might not. But the word is out for some of the people that I know that are stable in that community of hunters to find somebody that does the extra. Find somebody that's not just you can come hunt my land one day, get out of here, type guy. So we're always on the lookout for a guide, an outdoorsman, a good sport, and a good community person. So that's how that started.
And to hear your, just so everybody knows, this will probably air. This episode will probably air before because I think Chad's going to wait and probably put out the sawtooth hunt that we filmed probably later, closer to the next hunt, because he wants it to be part of, before the new hunt comes up, so that people will know about it.
All right.
But we were able to capture some of that. Ken and I was in the basement there at Matt's
Mm-hmm.
with Tim and your brother. Amazing, and thank you for letting us be part of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man.
That'd be a great transition period real quick, because we're going into quick fire. But because of this, I mean, I want to tell people, my next little thing, we're not sponsored by Henry Repeating Arms, but I do want to give them a shout out, because the gun that you gave Tim was the first one that I had actually ever held. Had you ever seen a Henry Repeating Arm before that? You can't, when you see these things in a book or a picture, you cannot imagine the quality
Oh, yeah.
of this weapon or this.
Same quality as the Cowboys when they used them. Probably.
It's a 22, but the barrel was, I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Lever action. And I know that Henry also does, Henry Repeating Arms, first of all, they're made in the USA.
Mm-hmm.
But they do a lot for Kristen Kaiser as well with what he does for the youth. If I'm not mistaken, they gave all those, I forget how many guns they gave him for this, and that's another person I'm going to try to get on here. But I do want to give if you can in any way, because our Second Amendment, first of all, is coming under attack every day from the extreme left, trying to take away our rights to bear arms. But if you can support Henry Repeating Arms in any way, please reach out to them. We don't make a dime off of this, but what they do for the youth and to support, and I mean, it's an amazing organization. I have their decal on my back window of my truck. And I wish that there was other ways other than this that I can support them. But this is a platform I have where I can give them a shout out and say, please, please go to Henry Repeating Arms and support them in any way that you possibly can. You ready for some quick fire questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
If they're happy questions.
Only happy questions.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing, man. We laughed a lot in the first segment of this thing.
Yeah.
You know, for about the first 45 minutes. But life is real. And at the same time, that's a little heavy. It's also honoring your brother.
Absolutely. And now I know that it's okay to come off the trail. You don't have to finish it. You're not a loser because you don't finish the Appalachian Trail. I had a good friend of mine that told me I was very distraught and kind of depressed about coming off, and he said, "Man, didn't you tell me that God touched you in the Great Smoky Mountains?" I said, "Yeah, He did." He goes, "Maybe that's all you needed."
There you go.
And I'm thinking, wow, okay, yeah, I get it. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Favorite scooter to ride?
favorite motorcycle or scooter?
Scooter.
Oh, Honda Ruckus, man. There's no other. Honda Ruckus,
How many cc's?
50. Teeny.
Where do you ride it?
Everywhere I can, except on the highway. And I've actually ridden it on the highway.
So now wait a minute. What was the one you all were talking about at the hunt? What's that? What's the name of that road or whatever it was?
Tell the Dragon.
Tell the Dragon.
So what did you ride on it?
Well, that's funny. That all was a funny story. I went up with 10 Cycles. 10 Cycles was shooting a video for a 1290 Super Duke that's come out that is absolutely a phenomenal bike. It's way too much bike for me. But they were going to do some, these guys, bad boy photos or kill boy photos, teamed up with us, and they were going to do all this drone stuff, and we were going to ride that thing through the mountains. Not me, one of the other guys. And I got to go with him, support. And I took my DRZ Supermoto, and I thought, man, I want to take one of my Ruckuses up there. I've always wanted to ride that Ruckus on to Tell the Dragon. It's 11 miles, 333 curves, or something crazy like that. And it was during the week, so it wasn't super busy. But there's always motorcyclists up there at the tail. So we get up there and we set up. The little resort there were gracious enough to let us park our trucks there and set up a little headquarters. We took another bike up there, a little 390 Duke, to sit out to let people see and sit on and stuff. Kind of a PR thing. And I felt you know, I'm in a full set of racing leathers. I mean, I look like I just came off the racetrack. You know, super-y duper helmet, and I sit down on this little 50cc stretched out ruckus, and I at first I feel like I'm a little embarrassed. I'm like, you know, people are looking at me like, what in the world is this guy doing? So I ride down to the gas pump, put $1.50's worth of gas in it because it don't hold very much, and off I went. And you know, coming out of the Tail of the Dragon Resort, there's a pretty good hill, and that thing doesn't do real good on hills. So I 20 mile an hour up the hill, you know. But when I got up to the top, where it goes from the North Carolina state line to the Tennessee state line, I crossed over in Tennessee where it gets good. I had more fun on that scooter, and it handles like a board. It doesn't handle very well. It's not made to go 35 miles an hour around these tight little twisty curves. But I did it anyway, and I had more people pass me, thumbs up at me instead of the bird, thumbs up at me, clapping. When I stopped at the end of it, people were getting off their motorcycle, coming out, what is that? Oh my gosh, that looks like fun, da 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 da. People just talk and talk and talk, and then I'd get on and I'd ride it back, and I did that all day. I think I rode my Supermoto, which is also a fun bike, maybe 3 or 4 times up and down it. But I rode that scooter enough to where I thought, you know what, I'm going to build a scooter. I'm going to build a Honda Ruckus, which I know is crazy, man. I'm 55 years old, but I'm going to build a Honda Ruckus to actually handle better. And that's a whole nother story, but I have got that Ruckus about 99%, 98% complete, and it is like nothing else I've ever put together and taken apart. My friend Richie Mancinelli is helping me, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now they took some really super good pictures of me. I mean, like I take these pictures, the Killboy and these other Tail of the Dragon photo op places take of me, and I put them on these other little Ruckus websites, and I get all kinds of feedback, and you know, oh my gosh, is that a stock Ruckus? Is that this? That looks cool, because it does. It looks really cool. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I know that if I wreck, you know, I'm going to get hurt. Maybe not killed, but I'll get hurt a little bit, but not as bad as if I was on my 1000 or my 600.
Oh yeah, I'd say.
Yeah. So yeah, Tail of the Dragon for sure is. I've had them at the beach, the mountains. I've had them. To tell you the truth, we are going to ruck the Blue Ridge Parkway this year. The Blue Ridge Parkway is 460 miles long. We're going to take a Ruckus and an extra Ruckus up to Virginia where it starts. And it's kind of like walking the Appalachian Trail. We're going to, you know, get off the road to camp or to stay in a hotel room for the night, and we're going to get back on it the next day and keep on going. Because you average about 20 miles an hour. You average. That doesn't mean all the time. Sometimes you're going 45, 40. Sometimes you're going 15. So you average about 22 miles an hour the whole trip probably. And it's going to take us about 4 or 5 days, but it's going to be amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Handgun of choice.
I thought about that one too that you sent me. It just depends. I'm a handgun guy, but I'm not a big handgun guy. So I'll tell you what I carry. I carry a Shield 40 caliber off-duty weapon, and I've got a titanium Scandium 357 that's basically like putting your when you shoot it, you might as well just put your hand out on the table and hit it with a ball-peen hammer. It's brutal, but it's a 357 and it weighs 10 ounces. So, but you know, I don't have a real favorite handgun. I'm more of a long gun kind of guy.
Oh, what's your favorite long gun?
If I had to pick one before I ran out of the house, it would be shotgun. Be my 1187 semi-automatic shotgun.
Favorite animal to hunt and weapon of choice?
Turkeys. Turkey's my passion. Second in line is coyotes. Yeah, I love to hunt coyotes. Like to call them in, and I've got a built Mini 14 by Ruger that is amazing. I've got more money into it than it's probably worth, but it is amazing. So if I had to run with 2 guns out of the house, it'd be the Mini and the shotgun.
Sunset or sunrise?
Can I say both?
Yeah,
Both, probably. Both.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, both.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Or all three? What's your favorite?
That's a hard one, man, because since I've been retired, I really don't eat as much as it doesn't look like it, but I don't eat as much as I do. So probably dinner. You know, I have something little at breakfast, a cup of coffee or two, and then I go do my day, and then I forget about lunch, and then it's dinner time. So probably dinner.
I think I already know the answer to this. This is probably one of the stupidest ones I've put on here after this. People are going to be like, why did you ask him that after this interview, you dummy? Beach, lake, or mountains?
I'll tell you about all three. I love the lake, but I've had some pretty bad luck with lakes. So lakes would be number 3. I love the beach, but it's like Vegas. I like to visit and then come home. So probably the mountains.
I knew it!
Yeah, yeah.
Probably the mountains.
I've seen some of
know.
your footage from the beach, so I knew you
Yeah,
like that.
we went to Navarre Beach, Florida, a couple months back, and I've never been to the Gulf Coast, of Florida. I've never been to that, and it was absolutely amazing. The sand, the clear water, and then the sunset. The sun went right down into the water. I've never seen that before in my life. It was amazing. The whole beach stopped. Like 2 minutes before the sun went completely down, the whole beach just stopped. Everybody stopped and stood there. And the sun would go right down in the water, and it's just mesmerizing.
Sort of like taps on a base. When they play taps
Absolutely.
at night, everybody stops. You don't
Yeah.
drive, you don't do it. You stop everything you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and you wait till it's done, and then you can proceed on. So
Yep.
awesome. Chandos, thank you so much. Michelle, thank you so much for coming with him. Maybe we can get you on someday. And that is real. I mean, I do want to try to
I
make
know
that happen.
she's so much more interesting than I am. It's not even funny.
So, listen, everybody. Thank you so much, Ken. Thanks again for coming. And
Hey, did we hurt Ken's feelings that we didn't talk about scooters that much? He's been
Yeah.
killing us.
I really wanted to talk more about scooters. Maybe we could have another visit
Okay.
that's more.
well, I'll tell you. Here's
Aligned
what we're
with the
going to do
students.
is, but this time we're going to come back, and I'm going to have you back in the shelter hole,
Okay.
where it's not part of all the formal stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to mic him up and put him on camera with us. And
Okay,
if I can
good.
talk him into it, he doesn't.
That's
He'll
not a good
ask
idea.
all the questions. He doesn't like being on camera, but he's never been on yet. So Jason Hubbard and myself, we're trying to get him to do a segment with us. And I think once he did it, he would be fine.
Yeah.
But to talk about cars and to talk about scooters, we might be able to get him on.
Okay.
But
Yeah. I don't want him to be, he was crying earlier. I don't want him crying anymore.
It's because you got in trouble. That really,
Oh,
that
my
deeply
goodness.
affected me.
Hey, listen, everybody, thank you so much for joining the shelter hole. We went long today, but it's been worth it. And thanks again to Chandos and Michelle. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here. God bless you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.